Snow Lane by Josie Angelina. Chapter 1. My name is Antoinette Elizabeth Bianchi. My name is longer than I am, or at least that's what my sisters say. Mostly they call me Annie or Shrimpy, on account of the fact that I'm the youngest and the littlest, and they're super tall, and they have tons of hair and big white teeth, and they all talk with their hands a lot. I'm not really small compared to kids my age. It's just that my sisters are larger than normal people. My eldest sister Miriam is only 19, and she's been going to college for 3 years already because she skipped a grade. She's wicked smart. Mary does a lot of math, the kind that's all funny shapes and squiggly lines. I guess some people are so smart they don't need regular numbers like the rest of us. I like my name even though it was an accident. See, my mom was convinced I was going to be a boy, and she wanted to name me Anthony, but I came out a girl, so she just worked with what she had. My mom never throws anything away. I live at 17 Snow Lane in Ashcroft, Massachusetts. I'm 10 years old and I'm the youngest of 9 kids. I have 7 big sisters and 1 big brother, which right now in 1985 is pretty rare. Although my dad told me once that about 100 years ago, everyone had big families like we do. People often say that it must be so nice to have a big family, and then they ask if it's fun to always have someone to play with. I don't know what the hell. 5 Hail Marys would give them the idea. Someone to play with? When you're the youngest of 9 kids, you aren't the player, you're the ball. My morning starts at 6 a.m. in midair. I don't mean I'm dreaming I'm flying. No, what I mean is that my sister Eleanor makes me sleep on the top bunk, even though I'm so skinny I sometimes slip between the mattress and the guardrail. Our bunk bed is pushed up against the wall on one side. Our mom tells me to turn the other way when I go to sleep so I won't fall, but that doesn't help either. I end up sliding between the wall and the bed frame. Eleanor, she's the second youngest and 2 years older than me, we call her Nora, has to yank on my arm and leg to get me unstuck, and I usually get wall burn on the side of my face as she tugs. It really sucks. 5 Hail Marys more than just falling, so I don't sleep facing the wall anymore. Our mom is just terrible at giving advice, like throwing fire on gasoline. That's supposed to be the other way around, isn't it? Gas on a fire? I always get stuff like that mixed up. I'm dyslexic, my mom says, but my sister Faye says it's just a fancy way of saying I'm retarded. Anyway, my mom doesn't always give good advice, mostly because she doesn't listen. With 9 kids, she can hardly hear over all of us yelling, let alone listen to any one of us at a time, and I can understand that. But that doesn't make it easier, because there are times I really need her to listen to me. Like last year when I told her 10 times that my head was itchy and I probably had dandruff, like a TV commercial said. She told me I didn't have dandruff without even checking me, and then the school nurse checked everyone in my school, and it turned out I had lice wicked bad. Now my sisters and brother were called out of classes, and Aurora started crying on the car ride home, and she said she'd never been so humiliated in all her life because now everyone thought we were dirty. My mom doesn't really have time for any of us kids. Mary once told me wasn't always like that. Must have been nice. I hit the ground with a whump. Ugh! I groan. The sound comes out creaky and uneven like I'm 1,000 years old. Nora squints at me from the bottom bunk. Hey, you landed on your back this time, she mumbles, still sleepy. At least you won't have a black eye like last week. I wheeze. Something's wrong with my lungs. I can't seem to catch enough of a breath to do anything more than make weird noises. This is bad. Mom! Nora yells, starting to worry about me. Normally I would have picked myself up off the floor already, but for some reason I can't move. Between the gray spots that are making everything fuzzy, I see my sister Virginia's face hanging next to Nora's above me. Virginia, who we call Gina, shares the room with us, even though she's 15 and going to be a sophomore in high school when school starts up in a few weeks. Gina says she prefers rooming with us to rooming with Faye or Bridget, who are the next 2 down from her in age. I don't blame her. Faye and Bridget are mean. I'm glad I'm not stuck with them. Is she breathing? Gina asks. Only kind of, Nora answers. She shifts from foot to foot anxiously. Mom! She calls out again, even though we all know it's useless. Her mother isn't coming. My sister Evangeline joins the upside down circle of faces above mine. All their hair is dangling over me like ribbons in different shades of brown. Some curly, some straight. Jean has got a ton of split ends. She stopped doing her hair a few months ago when she got a pair of big black shiny blue boots and a ton of black t-shirts. She started wearing a lot of eyeliner too. Most of my sisters wear eyeliner except me and Nora. We aren't allowed to wear makeup or get our ears pierced yet. At 12 years old, Nora's almost old enough. I'm so jealous. Help me pick her up, Gina, Evangeline says earnestly. Evangeline reaches for me, but Gina smacks her hands away. No, don't touch her, Gina snaps. Evangeline shakes out her precious hands, scowling at Gina. Evangeline's a pianist. She's only 16, but she's already played at Tanglewood, which is a place way the heck out in western Massachusetts where people go to listen to fancy music outdoors. I like Tanglewood because you can run around while classical music is playing, which you totally can't do anywhere else. And even though the last time there I got stung by a bee on my lip and Faye made fun of me, I didn't care because my dad bought me a snow cone and sat next to me the whole time, which never happens because my dad works 3 jobs and never has time to sit down. I remember being there on the grass with my cherry snow cone melting on my fat lip, the quiet shape of my dad, and how pretty Evangeline had played. Pick her up, Evangeline orders in her serious voice. She's a year older than Gina, so that makes her the boss of the room right now. The eldest is always the boss in my family. That means I'm not even the boss of the cat, Geronimo. He's older than my dad, practically. And I don't think anyone has ever tried to boss him about anything. I think about someone trying to boss the big old tomcat and start giggling, or at least I try. I can't really laugh with no air. Why is she making that noise? Nora asks. Wow, it's like I'm thinking all the things and they're going so fast in my head. They just keep whooshing along and things start to go a little dark around the edges. Maybe I should just go back to sleep. Don't move her! What if she's broken her neck? Gina says, scowling. I'm suddenly wide awake. Don't people with broken necks end up in wheelchairs? I saw this old movie once where a guy jumps into a pool but is not filled up with enough water, so he hits his head on the bottom of the pool and almost drowns. And when he wakes up in the hospital, he can't move, and when the doctor comes in, he says that it's because the guy broke his neck. I don't jump into pools now. Not that we have a pool anymore, because only rich people have pools. It'd be nice to have a pool. I try to wiggle something, but I can't tell if it works or not. I wheeze. I'm starting to feel really anxious, and there's nothing to count the sisters and I, but sisters, and I already know how many I have. Counting calms me down when I'm nervous, even though they call me crazy when I do it. Oh, no, 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 Nora says. She's hopping around and flapping her arms. Mom! She screams again. It looks like she's about to cry. I don't know why, but when I see Nora crying, I start to cry, even if I'm not sad. Once Nora tried to shave her legs, but she did it wrong, and she ended up cutting herself really bad, and there was blood all over the sink. She tried to shave her legs in the sink, which I think was her big mistake. And when she saw the blood, she started crying, and then I started crying, and Mom heard. So we both got in so much trouble because we're not old enough to shave our legs yet, even though all the other girls Nora's age do it. 12-year-olds get to do everything. But we're Catholics, so we're not allowed to do much of anything. I look away from Nora so her crying doesn't get me started. My sister Aurora glides into the room. She glides everywhere. She's a ballerina, but a real ballerina, not just someone who wants to be. She's part of the company at the Boston Ballet. She does the Nutcracker every winter, and I love it because I get to go backstage with her sometimes. And if the stage manager isn't looking, I can climb up into the rigging. It's so warm and secret up there. I love the smell of the ropes and the velvet curtains and the sound of the lights humming, and I love watching everyone dancing through the metal grating of the catwalk while I lay there face down, just floating over it all. What's going on? Aurora says. She's 17 and the second eldest. She's only 13 months younger than Mary, so that makes her the boss of the room now. The baby fell, Gina says. Why did you leave her on the floor? Aurora scolds. Gina drops her head and scowls, inching back. She mumbles something about a broken neck, but Aurora brushes it off like that's ridiculous. Aurora's good at waving a hand and making everyone else seem silly. I can't see anything now except fuzzy gray shapes, but I can smell Aurora's long black hair, spicy and warm. She's so beautiful. She just got the wind knocked out of her. She'll catch her breath in a second, Aurora declares. It's okay, little bit. Just take slow breaths. I love it when she calls me little bit. Way better than Shrimpy, and way, way better than my other nickname, Putrid, which is like puke and putrid put together. Faye came up with putrid when I went through what Mom called a bad patch when I was 8. And I would puke over pretty much anything. And I mean anything. I'd puke if I ran too fast or if my milk was a teensy bit too warm, but mostly I'd puke when someone was yelling, which someone always is around here. My mom said it was just because I have a delicate constitution, but I don't know what puking has to do with John Hancock and all those guys in white wigs and silky pants. Or maybe that was the Declaration of Independence. I get them mixed up. Breathe slow and deep, Aurora says again, and she shows me how to do it by doing it along with me. It kind of works. I actually get some air in, and the lights turn on again. Nora, stop bouncing. Annie's going to be fine, Aurora says sharply. Nora's nerves annoy Aurora, which makes Nora extra nervous. Nora goes and hides behind Aurora. Nora goes and hides from Aurora behind Gina, because she's the biggest one in the room. She may not be the eldest, but Gina outweighs Aurora by like 2 Auroras. It's not that Gina's fat. Well, not really fat. It's more like she's got better padding than the rest of us. But only because the rest of us would fit nice in a box of toothpicks. Except for my brother JP, of course. But he's different because he's a boy. But Gina's got the prettiest skin and the bluest eyes. I wish I had eyes that blue. Mine are the color of pea soup, and no one's ever said pea soup was pretty. Aurora scoops me up and smiles at me. Her face looks like a flower opening when she smiles. I put my head on her shoulder and wrap my arms around her waist like a monkey. She carries me into the hallway and then downstairs to the kitchen. I can hear the dryer going in the basement. My mom is down there doing laundry. I know she heard Nora calling her. How about a treat? Aurora says. I shrug. I don't feel much like eating. I'm picturing my mom down in the basement, staring at the piles of clothes she's got to fold instead of coming upstairs to see what happened. Aurora puts me down in a chair at our giant kitchen table, which used to be a lab table at my dad's work. My dad's a chemist during the day, and at night he teaches math to grown-ups at a local college. On weekends he's a farmer, but mostly he's a chemist. He brought one of the lab tables home for us to use because the lab table is the only thing long enough to fit all 10 of us, counting Miri when she's home. At dinner time, I guess I should say 11, including my dad, but he's always working. Usually I sit on the pew on the inside of the table. We call it the inside on account of the fact that you sometimes have to climb under the table to get to it, unless you're sitting on the end like I always do. I have to sit at the end next to my dad because he has to cut my meat for me. I'm not allowed to use steak knives after the one that slipped and I stabbed myself in the palm of my other hand. Went right through. Bled like crazy. Every time my heart beat, blood shot out. But we didn't go to the hospital or anything because my sister Faye managed to squeeze it hard enough to make it stop. That really hurt. But it stopped. I still got the scar, and it looks like the hole Jesus has in his hand, but I'm not supposed to say that because that's blasphemy. I still think it, though, every day. My Jesus hole. My mom got the pew from the parish when they were giving old stuff away, and she came home with a bunch of churchy things that are now all over the house and the yard. My mom's a church organist, and my parents are super Catholic, so that makes sense that we have a statue of St. Francis of Assisi in our bushes and a church pew in our kitchen. All the little kids sit on the pew on the inside between the table and the wall because we don't need as much room as the bigger kids do. They sit in regular chairs on the outside where I am now. It's weird to be on the outside of the kitchen table. I don't think I've ever sat here before. Aurora opens the fridge and goes to her special drawer. She's the only one of us who has her own drawer because she's got to take extra care of her figure, being a ballerina and all. If she ever even has one little pinch of fat all over that muscle she's got, she says she won't get good parts anymore. But personally, I think she's too skinny. Her food has to stay separate from our stuff so she knows exactly how much she's eaten. And the little kids aren't allowed to even look in there. She takes out a pomegranate. I know what it is because I asked her the last time she was eating it, but she didn't give me any. Want to try? She asks. I nod again. I hold so still so I won't wreck my chance to finally taste it. Mom won't buy any pomegranates for the rest of us kids because she says they're too expensive and wouldn't fill us up anyhow. Aurora peels open the rind and wiggles a section of juicy red seeds out of their white insides. I put them in my mouth and chew. They taste exactly like I imagine rubies would taste, but better than the taste is knowing they're special. Good? Aurora asks. I nod. Now go upstairs and get changed. I do what she tells me, without even thinking of trying to get around it. When Aurora wants to be nice, she's the nicest, especially to me. But when she's not feeling like being nice, you better watch out. She's like Mom that way. Nora knows more about how scary Aurora can be than I do, because when Nora was a baby, Aurora took care of her like Mary took care of me. All the older kids took care of us younger kids, from Bridget down, because Mary told me by the fifth kid Mom couldn't do it anymore. I asked Mary why Mom kept having kids if she couldn't take care of us, and Mary said because we're Catholic. Catholics have to keep on having babies until God tells them they can stop or go to hell. There's a lot of ways to go to hell when you're Catholic, so I spend a lot of time thinking about what it must be like. I've decided it must be like waiting for the bathroom in the morning. There are only 3 bathrooms in our house. Mom and Dad have one in their room that we're not allowed to use, ever. The one downstairs is just for Aurora and Evangeline in the morning. It's only a sink and a toilet, but it's enough room for the two of them to do their hair and makeup. The upstairs bathroom is the biggest. It has 2 sinks and a big mirror, a shower and a tub, and a toilet, of course. This is the bathroom the rest of us use in the morning. My brother John Paul, JP for short, gets the big bathroom first, because he's fastest and he's the only boy. He also gets his own bedroom, but no one can really argue with that. I pass JP on the stairs. Hey, Annie, he says, smiling his big smile. JP always makes me happy. I smile back and try to squeeze past him, but I trip over the 50 things that are scattered up and down the sides of the steps. JP grabs my arm before I can tumble down the steps with the landslide of unopened mail and the little figurines of angels and knitting patterns. Whoa, watch out for Mom's stuff, he says, hauling me up by the arm. He ruffles my frizzy hair and gives me a little more space to get by. JP takes up a lot of room because he has a lot of muscles. He does a ton of sports at school, and he has like 5 Letterman jackets, even though he and Gina are both only going to be sophomores when school starts up again. Sometimes people call them Irish twins, but I don't get it because most of the Irish people I know aren't already twins. Anyway, JP is like the exact opposite of Gina. So maybe that's what they mean? Irish twins are like reverse twins or something? JP's super popular in school and good at pretty much everything. You can't get into his bedroom without tripping over a trophy for sports or academics. Not that I'm allowed in his bedroom, but still, I like that he's always so nice to me, and he always seems to listen when I'm telling him how upset I'm upset or something. Maybe that's why people like him so much too. JP does a lot of listening from what I can tell from all the girls he's always hanging around with. And Gina, well, Gina's not popular. She never gets any phone calls, and she spends a lot of time listening to this band called The Cure. For some reason, that makes her a big weirdo. Now that JP's out of the bathroom, Virginia Fay and Bridget dart in. Aw, crap. 5 Hail Marys. I missed that. I missed my one chance. Bridget slams the door in my and Nora's faces. But I really have to go, Nora says, shifting from foot to foot. We hear the snap of a cassette tape as it's turned on. Music blares from behind the door. Led Zeppelin. Whole lot of love. Please, Nora begs. You gotta sing the next line of the song, Faye yells back. The cassette is paused. I hear Bridget snickering. Yeah, Bridget says, because everything she says is something Faye said first. Sing the next verse of the song we were just playing, and you can come in and pee. So childish, Gina says. Just let her in. No, Faye snaps back. I want her to sing. When Faye gets an idea in her head, she'll die before she lets it go. Nora's so full of pee her brown eyes are turning yellow, but I keep my mouth shut. Because if I say anything right now, Faye and Bridget will just get worse. Nora doesn't have a choice. She clears her throat and tries to sing. Way, way down inside. She breaks off. And then what? Faye was laughing, but now she stops and she sounds totally serious. There's more. It's just a bunch of yelling and noises, Nora says. She's crying now, and I feel my throat choke up with her. It's like when the doctor hits your knee and your leg just shoots out. If Nora cries, I cry. Come on, Faye, I can't hold it any longer, she begs. Let her in, Virginia orders. No, Faye says. I can practically see the sneer on her lizard lips through the door. Make me vagina. Uh-oh. Nora and I jump back as someone gets slammed into the wall on the other side of the door. There's a lot of snarling and slapping, and their voices are really high and screechy. There's a thump as a body hits the floor. It's even money, to tell you the truth. Gina's the biggest, but it's not like Faye is tiny like Nora and me. Faye has a thick back and really broad shoulders like a boy, and she plays field hockey. She's like the captain or something, because she always finds a way to win. Well, I know how she wins. She cheats. Faye cheats at everything, especially cards. Whenever we play, Faye always makes Nora give her the best cards. And if Nora doesn't, she hits her. Faye hits hard. Bridget is having a conniption fit in there. She's laughing so hard. I hear them slam up against the door, and Nora and I jump back when we hear a splintering sound. Everything goes real quiet. Kids, Mom calls. What's going on up there? My mom yells up the stairs. She comes to the bottom of the stairs where she can see Nora and me standing outside the bathroom door. What did you do? She asks us. Just like my mom to show up if there's something broken. Nothing, I say. It was them in there. My mom's eyes Nora and sighs. Go change your pants. Don't put those down the chute or the whole wash will smell like pee. Put them in the sink in my bathroom. I look down and see Nora's wet herself. She's gone all pale and woozy like she does sometimes, and she's not moving even though I'm tugging on her. Come on, I say, grabbing her arm. I try to pull her into Mom and Dad's bedroom. Quick, before Faye. But she doesn't move fast enough. Before Faye what? Faye asks as she pulls the bathroom door open. Nothing. I mumble, pushing Nora in front of me and trying to block the wet mark on the back of her pants. Gina brushes past us and goes down the stairs and out the front door without even eating breakfast. I glance back and see that the piece of plywood on the bottom part of the door has been all smushed in. See, our doors aren't like other people's doors. They're hollow inside, and they don't stand up to much. You could probably punch a hole right through with your forehead if you were standing too close when you sneezed. You two should be more careful, Faye says behind me. I'm going to have to tell Mom what you did to the door. Hey, I say, we didn't do that. Duh. Of course, Faye knows we didn't do that. Don't know why I said that, except it was the first thing that popped into my head. Sure you did, Faye says. She crosses her arms. Didn't they, Bridget? I saw the whole thing, Bridget says, nodding and snickering. I open my mouth to argue, and Faye leans forward and flicks me right on the Adam's apple. I can't think of anything to say after she does that. She and Bridget walk past us. Come on, I tell Nora, dragging her into the empty bathroom behind me. I guess you'll have to wash off in the tub, too. Her lips are all pressed together, and she's crying without making a sound. I've gotten good at that, too. But Nora's the champ. You'd never know she was crying if you didn't see the tears. Her shoulders don't even shake or anything. I hate her, she whispers after we've gotten her pants off and she's soaking in the tub. Catholics aren't supposed to hate anybody except the devil. It's called wrath, and it's one of the 7 mortal sins. I just nod because I don't want to say it and go to hell, but I'm thinking it. I'm also thinking it's so unfair I'm not allowed to hate Faye when she really deserves it. God must have been an only child. Chapter 2. Did I mention I grew up on a farm? Well, technically, I don't live on the farm. That'd be awesome. My uncle Antonio and his wife Constance live on the farm. My uncle's older than my dad, and he inherited most of it. And then we needed money. Nobody would tell me for what. And my dad had to sell his part to my uncle. All that happened before I was born, and now we just work the farm for extra money for our family. My aunt and uncle don't even have any kids. Why do they get all this space while the 11 of us are crammed into the tiny house on Snow Lane? Born first gives you lots of good stuff. Being born last, like my dad and me, means that everybody is your boss. It's so hot on the farm in the summer, and there's no way to get out of the sun when you're working. Dad tells me to wear a hat, and I do, but it feels hotter under it with no breeze, so we always end up taking it off. And then I faint about a half an hour later. See, my dad's Italian, but my mom's Irish. Full, red-headed Irish. All my sisters got my dad's dark hair, and most of them got the kind of skin that gets pretty and golden in the sun, but not me. I just faint, burn, and freckle. So here it is. I'm skinny and shrimpy, with poofy dishwater blonde hair. That's what Bridget calls it. And when I smile, I look like a grand piano. People keep telling me I'll grow into my big teeth someday, but I don't know about that. I've got giant teeth. I have to concentrate to keep my lips shut. Faye tells me it makes me look dumber than I am to always have my mouth hanging open, but I can't think about that all day, or I'd never get anything done. Having as many physical disadvantages as I do doesn't make me exempt from work, though. In today's farm day, though, even though I'll be sore from falling out of bed this morning. I go downstairs to the hall closet, where everybody's winter coats hang. At the bottom is the boot pile. The thing about the boot pile is that it's magic. Some days there's a pair that fits, and then bang! The next day there's nothing. Sometimes you find one stinking boot, and that's the worst because you can spend forever in the hall closet looking for something. But if it isn't your day, it isn't your day. And today's not my day. Annie, hurry up! My mom shouts. I'm coming! I holler back. I'll have to wear my sneakers, but I've already worn a hole in them, and Mom says she won't buy me another pair because it's almost school shopping time. Not that I ever get anything new for school, anyways. I pull on my crummy sneakers and wiggle my big toe looking at the hole. I'll have dirt and rocks in my shoe in under a minute. I run to the garage. Gina's up front with Mom. Faye, Bridget, and Nora are already in the back of the van. JP is probably at his youth fellowship meeting with the monks, and Evangeline and Aurora are on the tee to Boston to rehearse with the symphony and the ballet. I climb into the back. Did you tinkle? Mom asks. I climb out of the van and run back upstairs to tinkle. When I come back down, my sisters are all looking at me like I'm something they stepped in. It's a long drive, and nobody likes being in the van for 1 second longer than they have to because the van is the van. There are some cars, like the blue Chevy Nova, which used to belong to my Aunt Mary Perpetua. She gave it to Mary when Mary went to MIT, that are difficult and smelly like the van is, but you still like to ride in them because they have something about them that's easy to love. The van is the most unlovable van ever made, the most unlovable car ever made. It has no seats in the back. There are only 2 seats up front, one for the driver and one for the person lucky enough to ride up there, which is never me. There's no padding of any kind in the back of the van, and no straps to hang on when the driver takes a sharp turn. And the air vents don't have filters, so it's always smells stinky like car exhaust. Going to the farm in the back of the van is like spending an hour in the dryer with a bag of rocks and a fart. You put your shirt on backwards, Bridget says. Darn, I reply, looking down and realizing she's right. The thing about being dyslexic is that you think things are all lined up and doing exactly what they should, but there's a difference between looking at something and knowing how it's going to look on you. I know that because I can't see it. My mom used to lay my clothes down on the floor for me, just like I was supposed to wear them. I'd lie on top of them and then wiggle in. Easy peasy. But she stopped laying out my clothes a few months back because I'm supposed to be old enough now. I don't know what old enough has to do with it, unless she means that I'll grow out of being dyslexic someday. I hope so. I pull my arms inside my t-shirt, spin it around, and stick my arms out through the holes again. It's still inside out, Bridget tells me. I go to pull my shirt up off over my head to flip it, and Faye yells at me. No, don't take your clothes off. People can see in the windows, she says, pulling my shirt back down over my head. God, why can't you learn how to dress yourself? I'm sick of doing it for you. She isn't even wearing a bra, Bridget says, like I'm some kind of freak. But I don't need a bra yet. There's nothing there to put in one. I can't think of a time Faye has ever dressed me. But it doesn't matter. Everyone is so frustrated with me. I start to feel anxious again. I look for something to count, but there are no other cars yet, so no other license plates. As my mom steps on it to merge onto the freeway, we tumble across the bumpy iron floor of the van. Nora catches me and shows me which way is up as my mom cuts the wheel to change lanes. I brace myself against the wall and smile at her for saving me some bruises. I see Faye and Bridget shaking their heads at me. Retard, Faye whispers. She looks away like she can't stand me anymore. I look out the window and watch the dark green leaves of the summer trees flick by, but it's only so I don't start counting. Nora doesn't mind when I do it. But Faye, Bridget, and Gina hate it because they say it makes them look weird by relation, and I'm already in enough hot water with everyone for not peeing before I came down, and I don't want to get a slap. I keep my eyes glued to the leaves, trying to ignore the license plate numbers and the mile marker numbers and the exit numbers. I try to tell myself not to start adding and not to start putting the sums together into multiples of threes, and then take the threes and put them in sets of threes and count the sets. But I can't help it. I see the numbers coming together and branching out all the time when they fly by me like they do on Mass Pike. It makes me feel calm. Crap. 5 Hail Marys. I need a 2 to fix that 7, so I have a 9 to round out my 18th set. I hold the 4 on the back of the Volvo and a remainder set while I search for a 2 or a 5 or an 8. Your lips are moving, Nora whispers in my ear. She slides in front of me and hands me a comb. Braid my hair, she tells me. I sigh and gratefully start sectioning her hair into threes. Now I can count for a reason. I'll do 3 rows of French braids. Nora's hair is slippery soft, and she's got a ton of it, so I'll have to pull it tight. I'll be at it forever, which is a good thing. I don't mind Shrimpy. I don't mind Pugitrid, but I hate to be called crazy. It's how they look at me when they say it that bothers me, like they're worried about me, or maybe they're scared. Mary told me once I was wicked smart like her, and that's why people are afraid of me when I do stuff with numbers they don't understand. I loved that she said that. I loved it most that she said we were alike. But I don't really get what she means when she says I'm smart like her. Mary's got to be way smarter than me because Faye and Bridget always say I'm an idiot. You'd think, since I like counting so much, I'd be great at math, but I'm not. It's the shape of the numbers that I like to think about, how they fit together. It's making a rule like I'm going to add the numbers on a license plate as it flashes past. If the numbers add up to a multiple of, say, 3, 5, or 7, then that's the rule today. I look at another license plate as it flashes by and then add the numbers on it. If they don't add up to a multiple of 5, I have to keep adding new sets of license plate sums until I get a sum that is divisible by 5. Then I start over. Today it was multiples of 3, which also happens to be my favorite. I add up the numbers as they go by, and if I can get the plates from 3 cars to add up to a number divisible by 3, and 9 is my favorite because duh, it fits for the rule today. And when I get the numbers to fit, I feel better. Like something you can't prepare for. A license plate flashing by adds up just the way you want it to, and that means that everything is going to be okay today. Sometimes it means I have to hold dozens of numbers in my head to make the sets work, but that's easy for me. I can remember long strings of number without any trouble at all. I'm good at it. Being good at it makes me feel calm. It's like I don't even need to think because I'm thinking so hard. I can't really explain it, but sometimes it's a pain because I can't shut it off, especially on days when I'm nervous. I can't find the damn 10 Hail Marys, 2 I needed, but now I braided into Nora's hair. I'll do 3 sets of 3 strands of hair, and I'll only use 2 rubber bands to tie it off. Shazam! I've got my 2. Honestly, I don't know why my sisters think counting is so weird. Our mom has about a half dozen rosary beads hanging from the rearview mirror, and when she's stuck in traffic, she takes one down and starts counting prayers on it. Mom whispers her Hail Marys and her glory bees from the front seat. Why is me whispering license plate numbers that much different? But everyone in my family is worried about how things look to other people. When we finally get to the farm, I'm carsick from staring at the back of Nora's head. I get out of the van and brace my hands on my knees, looking at the ground real hard. I take a deep, cool breath. The best part of the farm is the ocean breezes. We're not too far from the coast, and every now and again you get a tangy, salty sort of breeze that's about 10 degrees cooler for about 5 seconds before it goes back to being 90 degrees again. But for that 5 seconds, it's really nice. What sucks, 5 Hail Marys about it, is knowing that I'm so close to the ocean, but I haven't been to the beach all summer. And I probably won't go there once this year because Mom says I'm not allowed to swim anyway on account of the fact that I always aim for the riptide. She's gonna barf, Gina warns, holding Bridget back so she's out of the blast zone. No, I say, and then barf comes shooting out of me. Ugh, I wasn't ready for it, so most of it comes out of my nose. Now I'll smell barf all day. Wait, did I eat something blue? I hear my sisters groaning, calling me gross. I can't help it, I say, still bending over in case there's more. Yep, there's more. Another chunky rainbow splats out of me. This one sounds like I'm shouting for some guy named Huey, which makes me laugh, which is disgusting because I suck a ton of puke back up my nose and re-swallow it, which makes me barf again. And now I'm trapped in the never-ending barf cycle, where your barf grosses you out so much all you can do is barf more. At this point, I think I might actually barf forever. She's really going at it today, Gina says. Just try to calm down, Shrimpy, she tells me. She rubs my back and it feels nice. Calm down and you'll stop. It's okay. She keeps rubbing and I start to feel better. I spit a few times and stand up, finally out of the barf cycle. Got a tissue? I ask. Nora goes into the front seat of the van and raids Mom's tissue stash. Mom's got tissues stored all over the place. Can't go 5 feet in our house without coming across a box of tissues. In the winter, Mom even keeps a tissue balled up in her sleeve just in case. I blow my nose while Nora gets the hose and runs some water over my puddle of yuck. Maybe a flower will grow here, Nora says with a little smile on her face. I haven't seen her smile in a long time. Yeah, I laugh. I just hope it doesn't look like what it came from. The barf blossom. We'll give it to Aunt Constance. She and I grin at each other, and she hands me the hose. I rinse out my mouth and wash my face. The water on the farm is so good. It's well water, cold, 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 like it's always winter underground, and sweet like it's never touched a metal pipe. I could drink buckets of it. Nora turns off the hose and we go into the mudroom under the farmhouse. We're not allowed inside the house. Aunt Constance doesn't like us stomping on her clean floors in our dirty boots. Aunt Constance doesn't like us, period. The walk to the mudroom isn't enough to fill my holy sneaker with pebbles. Nora lifts the rusty latch and swings open the door. It makes a long hooting noise, almost like a hello. I like that sound. I also like the smell of the mudroom. It smells exactly like you'd think a mudroom would smell, like clay and dusty wood. It's dark in the mudroom, dark and cold. It never gets warm down here, no matter how hot it gets outside. It's like the well water. On the farm, winter is always waiting, just a few inches down. There are two windows, but I wouldn't really call them windows. They're just little portholes at opposite ends of the mudroom, always clogged with spider webs, but they let in a tiny little bit of light. There's a bathroom, too. Well, how do I describe the bathroom down here? You have to duck, you have to squat, you have to aim, and you have to hope nothing with more legs than you decides to bite you when your pants are down. The mudroom also has another room at the back, but I don't go there. It smells like blood. I sit down on the dusty steps just inside the door, take off my sneaker, and shake out the pebble passengers. My father, who was up at the farm for an hour before us because he's got so much work to do, is already handing out jobs. Everyone starts stepping over me to get out to the fields while I'm holding my shoe in my hand. I hop over to my dad. Wait, where am I going again? I ask him. He looks at me and wrinkles his already permanently wrinkled forehead. We have the same green eyes. I notice it when he looks at me like he is now, but he doesn't look at me very much. Well, he says quietly, what do you want to do? My dad is always quiet. The only time I've ever heard him raise his voice is when he's shouting over the noise of the tractor. Well, I reply, what do you need me to do? I want to be helpful. I want to be one of his strong daughters like Faye or Gina. Faye and Gina always get the important jobs, but Faye and Gina can also both bench press twice their weight, and our dad knows it. He looks me over. I know I can still see I'm a little pale and shaky from the knock I took when I fell out of bed, and from barfing when I got out of the van. I'm good at counting, and so is my dad. We have the same eyes, so I see things like he does. We have a few orders for blueberries. Why don't you get a basket and go with Eleanor? Blueberries are the easiest. No thorns like the raspberries, no crouching like the strawberries, no heavy lifting like the tomatoes, and the bushes are old enough and tall enough that you're always in the shade when you're picking. Dad's giving me the lightweight job. Again. And I'm not even in charge of the blueberries. Nora is. He gives me a weird look. Your shirt's on inside out, he tells me. I look down at my shirt and open my mouth. I know I have to have something to say, but it doesn't come out in time. My dad is already stomping out up the 3 steps out of the dark mudroom and into the blazing light of the fields before I can tell him that of course I knew that. It's a fashion choice. Why does the perfect thing to say always come to me after it makes any sense for me to say it? May as well get to work. I jump up to knock free one of the ancient woven wicker baskets that hang on pegs from the thick wooden beams that support the ceiling from the mudroom. I catch my basket as it and I fall back to the ground. I like picking blueberries. I tie the basket around my waist with a bandana and go out into the sun. I whistle a little bit and swing my arms, setting the mood. Today didn't start out that great, but it's still early. I can turn this around. I walk out into the tall grass between the farmhouse and the old blueberry bushes and get soaked with dew up to the thigh. That'll keep me cool. It'll also make me itchy in about 2 seconds. But what can you do? It's hot or itchy on the farm. On most days, it's both. Nora's already out there somewhere, but I can't see her because the bushes are huge. They were my Nana's. My Nano planted them for her when she first came to America because blueberries were her favorite. That makes them older than my dad, and there isn't much left in the world older than him. Or at least that's what my sisters say. I tuck myself into a bush with lots of ripe berries on it and start to pick. Blueberry bushes have smooth, glossy leaves with no irritating hairs on them, so you can get right inside the cool branches while you pick and be out of the sun. It's easy work, but after just a few minutes, it's dead boring. Good thing I've never had a watch where I'd always be checking it. The one thing that I like about picking blueberries is it gives me plenty of time to think about whatever I want to think about. Mostly, I think about what it would be like to be anybody but me. I think about what it would be like to have superpowers, or what it would be like to live back when there were knights and dragons. I'd have liked to have been a knight and swing a sword and say, "Forsooth!" Nora says that girls can't be knights, but I've figured out a way around that. I'd just cut my hair and pretend to be a boy. No one would notice on account of the fact that I'm as flat as a board. I totally fight dragons. Nora says there's no such thing as dragons, but how would she know? She wasn't alive back then. Nora says there are no such thing as dragons. She wasn't alive back then. Nora also says I can't use the Force because there's no such thing. My mom said the Force is witchcraft anyway, and all the Jedis are going to hell. That doesn't make any sense. The Jedis are good. Good people don't go to hell, I said. But my mom said that anyone who uses witchcraft can't be good even if they do good things. I guess it doesn't matter what you do just as long as you aren't a witch. I'd like to have been a witch and cast spells and flown around on a broomstick and have been super powerful. But I'd never tell my mother that, or I'd spend the rest of my life getting lectured by some priest. I don't like priests. They're creepy, but I'm not supposed to say that out loud. I hear Nora coming toward me and stick my head out of the bush. "How much do you have?" she asks. She looks in my basket and then back up at me. She isn't happy. "That's it?" she asks. "That's all you've got in 3 hours?" I look in her basket. She's got like 5 times as much as me. "No way! How'd you pick that much?" She rolls her eyes. "Come on, let's measure it out and hope we got enough, because Dad wants us to move to raspberries now." "Why?" I ask, struggling to keep up with her. Her legs are longer than mine. "Because they're ready, and we have to pick them today or we lose a lot of money," she answers, kind of yelling. "Why are you so mad at me?" I ask. "Why is everyone so mad at me today?" Nora sighs a lot when I do stuff that bugs her, but she doesn't really get mad at me all that often. Her lips are all pressed together, and I think for a second she's not going to answer me, but she finally does. "You need to start pulling your weight, Annie. Whenever you don't pick enough, or," she gestures to my t-shirt, "dress yourself right. That means one of us has to do it for you because Mom and Dad can't." She said "can't," but I know her better than anybody. The way she said it, like she's sad, sounds like she means won't. She shakes her head. Sorry, she snapped at me. Nora and I almost never yell at each other. "You have to grow up faster and look after yourself like the rest of us did, even if you're only 10. You can't be a kid anymore because no one wants to take care of you." I nod, because I know all this, but it still makes me feel stupid to hear it. Then Nora gives me a little sideways hug and it cheers me up. "Now hurry up," she says, heading back toward the farmhouse. She's smiling a little when she says it, and if Nora smiles, I smile. "I'm coming," I say, huffing along. Whew! It got hot. I wipe my upper lip and blink the sweat out of my eyes. We go back into the mudroom and dump out the blueberries into the pint baskets. I got 4 measly pints. Nora got 9. We need 18. I look over at the filled flats of raspberries. A flat has 24 pints in it. Gina and Faye must be picking their brains out today. They've got 3 full flats between the two of them. Okay, so Bridget is out there with them. But Bridget is even slower at picking than I am, because she doesn't even try. She just stands around worrying about her tan line. Although I don't know why she cares so much about getting a crooked tan. A straight tan isn't going to help. I always wonder how someone as plain as Bridget got to be so concerned about how she looks. No one's ever called me beautiful, but Aurora says Bridget looks like she was put together with construction paper and a stapler, and she's still always got her face pressed against a mirror. "You go back to the blueberries, and I'll go help Gina," Nora says with a sigh. "It's almost noon and blazing hot right now." "No, I'll go," I tell her. "I'm going to prove to her I can take care of myself. You finish up with the blueberries, and I'll help them because I was so slow." I don't let her argue with me. I just set up some pints and a carry flat. Raspberries are so fragile you have to pick them and place them directly into a pint basket, or they turn to jam on you. Our mom calls them persnickety, but I don't know if that's a real word or not, so I don't use it any place but in my head. I sit down on the step, untie my shoe, and shake a ton of rocks out. At this point, I've got more dirt in my shoe than outside of it. I put my dirty sneaker back on and go out into the sun. I feel my skin pucker with sweat, just like my mouth does when I lick something sour. I wonder if drool and sweat are the same thing. I laugh as I head out to the raspberries, thinking of my skin drooling. My sisters look up from the raspberry canes like I've got three heads. Faye rolls her eyes. I stop laughing. Gina looks hassled and she points me to the end of the row. Pick toward me, she tells me. I trudge to the end of the row, gathering up a ton of dirt and rocks and my leaky shoe on the way. Bend down a bit and stick my hands in between the thorns. The first raspberry is for me. I squish it around my mouth. I like the seeds. I like how they taste kind of oily inside the sweet and sour of the berry. I pop the seeds between my teeth as I tug more ripe berries into my hand. I love the taste of raspberries, but they are the meanest things to pick. Even the leaves have tiny little thorns on the edges and on the underside. The real kicker is that the thorns have a bit of venom on them. Just a little bitty scratch and your skin swells up. And if your hand gets too full of berries, your fist will be too big to take them out of the bush without getting scratched to kingdom come. If you want to eat raspberries, then you have to let them eat a little bit of you too. It's hot. There's no shade, no wind, no birds, and even the insects have packed it in. It's so hot and quiet. I think I can almost hear the sun coming in waves. In no time, my forearms are all scratched up and stinging with sweat. I want to rub the scratches, but that will only make them sting more. I look down at my pint baskets, and only two are filled. Why am I so slow? Annie? I try to be careful. I try to focus. I was picking as fast as I could. And then I started thinking about how the sun sounded and how me and the raspberries are eating each other. And she's fainting! Gina yells. I giggle because I can't see anyone fainting. All I see is the sky. It's beautiful.